evening. I hope everybody is well. Good to see you all. We're here once again for our regular, not so regular this time, but our regular meeting in English every second Monday of the month. We are here to to talk about the Spiritist teachings in English, so that we can practice a little bit of understanding, increase our vocabulary, and together, since we are here in the United States, right, we should be doing this for our own personal development as well. So we can mix and find a kind of a balance also in the language that we speak. So tonight is a special night. We have every year during the month of June, we have our Jorespe, which is an acronym for the Spiritist Journey of Peabody. And this year is the 14th year 14 of Jorespe, uh, since we started actually, but this is the 13th edition because when the pandemic started 2 years ago, we didn't have our Jorespe on that year. So we skipped 1 year, and last year we came back, half in person and half over the internet. And this year we are doing it all here in person. So welcome everyone. The ones, if there's anyone watching online now or in the future, welcome as well. And as we regularly do, we start with a prayer. Then we have a reading. I don't know if you're going to do it. That's good. I thought it would be Nancy, but Mariana will come here just to give us a brief reading, and then after that, I'll come back to do the main topic of the night, which is going to be about In Search of Balance, which is the main topic of our um, our event, Jorespe. So, having said that, let's focus and do our initial prayer, and we can invite Mariana up here. So we can raise our thoughts, our minds, open our hearts to the good spirits that are surrounding us at this moment, and thinking about Jesus, thinking about God, our Creator. We want to thank you all for providing us this opportunity of being here tonight to study the teachings that make us move forward in our inner life, but also in life in general. So, dear God, we pray that your love covers us all, the ones who are here physically, the ones who are not here physically, but are here in spirit. And we also pray that this love of yours can not only fill our hearts, but fill our entire beings, so that whenever we walk, whenever we talk, whenever we think, we may think of you and your love. And whatever we do, we can always be spreading your love wherever we go. May this love bless us now and forever. So be it. So with that, let's invite Mariana, and she will help us with the message.
Good evening, everyone. Today we are going to read from the book Our Daily Bread, written by Shipu. And I don't know, but I think it's from Emmanuel. Is it? Yeah. Okay, we're reading chapter 142, Reprisals. And Paul wrote, the very fact that you have lawsuits among you means you have been completely defeated already. Why not rather be wronged? Why not rather be cheated? Again, Paulo said that, and it's in 1 Corinthians 6:7. And Emmanuel tells us this. Lawsuits and demands do not always remain in the courts of justice, in the shocking field of public processes. They are expressed on a greater scale in the homes and in the institutions. There, they are active through the mental disorders and through scandals conversation, in the invisible mud of hatred, which asphyxiates the heart and annuls energy. Overall, if they do exist, it is due to the components of the family or of the associations that fed them with the oil of continued animosity. A number of apprenticeship becomes victims of similar disturbance due to their retention of false regenerating principles. In general, a great number prefer to use a more aggressive attitude, with swords in hands, wielding in supposedly to secure the improvements of others, ready to protest, to accuse, to criticize loudly, usually declaring that they represent the truth. But why not exemplify their own personal faith by withstanding the injustice and pain heroically, in the silence of the faithful soul, prior to the option of any reply? How many homes would be happier? How many institutions would be converted into permanent springs of light if the believers of the gospel would learn to remain silent through speaking the propitious time adventurously? This reference made is not directly to vulgar men, but rather to the disciples of Jesus. What a great advance the world would gain when the followers of the Christ can feel happiness in being a simple instrument of righteousness in the divine hands, forgetting the old objective of being the arbitrary instructor of celestial service. First of all, I'm going to give a little explanation of why Paul wrote this. Um, when Paul first founded the churches back in this case, in Corinthians, people was sure that they held the truth between each other. They were sure, 100% sure, that they were the ones who had the truth. They were the ones who was always right. So if I think I'm right and you think you're right, we're gonna bump heads. We're gonna have serious issues. So what he's trying to say is stop the fighting. Why are you guys fighting inside of the church? Why are you guys fighting with your family members? Why not just, okay, you think I'm wrong? I'm wrong. I think this is not right. I think this that you're why not just take it? Why not just follow what Jesus told us? When the when the Jews came to beat up Jesus, he did not held up a sword and told them, I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to kill you all. Instead, he took all of that pain. He took all of that and he said, do as you wish and may God forgive you all. Why aren't we doing that? And what is most interesting to me is that here he says, this reference is made not directed to vulgar men. What he's saying is this message is not for those who don't know the gospel, who don't know Jesus. This message is for us, all of us, who are here every week learning something, trying to be a little bit better. This is a guidance on how to be better. Instead of thinking that everything that is done to us, or everything it's that we hear about us is wrong, why don't we just take it, learn it from them, learn what it is? Instead, we want to fight, we want to battle. It's not that we want to make it right for us. The truth is, we want revenge. That's what we want. We don't want to something to, we don't want to, let's open a lawsuit. We open a lawsuit against someone not because we think we're right, but it's because we want revenge against that person. We think we deserve it. And do we really? My truth is my truth. Your truth is your truth. And God's truth is his truth. We all have truth. Nobody owns truth. You can see an object from many angles, and it can be different in many angles. And that's pretty much it. Let's take what's ours without complaining, without whining, without thinking that somebody's doing us wrong, somebody's cheating. It's not. Let's just take it. We have a saying in Portuguese that says, we have 2 ears, one mouth. Let's listen more, talk less. That's what I think this is trying to tell us. And I hope that I can start doing this, because trust me, it's hard. We can always fail because we are here to learn, and we're still not perfect. Mac, I know you have a lot to say, so the mic is yours.
Thank you, Mariana. Let's turn it on. So, again, thank you all for coming tonight. As I said in the beginning, it's a special night because we're going through our Spiritist Journey of Peabody, Jorespe, our Jorespe number 13. And this year, our main topic is In Search of Balance. It's right there. And tonight's talk is going to be about the general topic of Jorespe. Just a brief explanation. Every Monday and Saturday we have a specific talk um, about the main topic. So this past Saturday, for example, Flavio Zanetti was here and he spoke to us about um, how Spiritism can help us to find emotional balance. Last Saturday prior to that, Daniel was here talking about Spiritism and mental health. Last week, Luciano was here talking about polarities of life. All the other ones are in Portuguese. I'm giving the titles in English, but all these topics, all these talks are at our YouTube page, so you can all go back and listen and hear the topics. And last Saturday was a great lecture by Flavio, and the first one, the opening one by Daniel Assisi from California, was excellent. It was really, really good. So, moving forward, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about this search, uh, that we've been going through for a very long time, and maybe that's why we ended up um, choosing this topic, because we're all in search of balance. Mariana finished her talk here by pointing to her 2 years and 1 mouth. And I find that image to be so powerful, because when we talk about balance, we tend to believe to a certain degree that, if you have two here, for you to be balanced, you need to have two here, right? That's usually how we think about it, at least in the first spur of the moment. When someone asks us, then we think about a balance or a scale. Then we put something here, and then they weigh, and then you're in equilibrium, you're in balance. But if you have two big eggs, for example, and one stone that are as heavy as two eggs, then you have one stone and two eggs. So it's 1 to 2. It depends on what you have on both sides, right? So it's the same idea. Why do we have 2 ears and 1 mouth? It's the same idea. That's what I found very interesting about the way she finished, because we tend to these types of thoughts, they come to, at least come to me, to show us that sometimes not the it's not the very first thing that shows up in our mind that's the correct one. We have sometimes to really spend a little bit more of time thinking about it to really get the idea and develop that idea. Right? Sometimes something can make sense right away, and then we start thinking about it and we say, "Oh no, but that's wrong because," and then we can rethink or um, repurpose or redo that thought. Um, so this search for balance that we've been dealing with in our own lives, but uh, not but in our own lives, it's not only me. Everyone has their own search for balance in different areas. Some people are struggling with the language, so they want to find a certain balance in the language. Some people are struggling with a balance between work life and house life, or some people in spiritual life and material life. All types of searches we've been going through our entire life, search for balance. And when we go back in time, we will see that people have been doing this for a very, very long time, basically since we became aware of ourselves. So we are always trying to find a balance in what we do, in what we eat, in what we think, in how we do stuff. We're always trying to find this. So I decided that uh, for us to go through this topic, I will go through a few ideas that I found in different religions. Since we talk about religion, but not only that, I'm going through a little bit of philosophical ideas too, through time, to see what people say about balance. What do they think about it? So I gathered a few sayings or a few ideas to um, so that we can have a history, or a kind of a brief history of this search for balance that people have been talking about. And if we go back in time and then we see that people were worried about it, it means that they were also looking, searching for balance. So it is kind of a two, to me at least, is a kind of two-in-one package. We not only get their definition or what they think about it, but we also know that they were looking for it. That if they found a reason, it's because they were looking for something to make their lives easier, or to make their lives bearable, to make their lives um, uh, to have some kind of pleasure to live, and not only be a burden, be something heavy that we have to carry. So we'll go through. And when I was thinking about this, I thought about how connected we all are. Because even though I don't know, you know, people that live in India or people that live in China, people that live in Japan, around the world, in Australia, wherever they are. Um, but if they have the same kind of problems that I have, we are connected. So we are all connected in that sense, and everything is connected. And so it means that, at least to me, it means that we have to find a certain, and the word keeps repeating itself, a certain balance. Because when I am unbalanced, I unbalance a little bit of my world, and we start affecting the world around us. So when we get balanced, we help the world get a little bit better. And um, when I was looking for these ideas of balance around the world, I found this image, and I'm gonna put a text here for with a description of this thing that's called Indra's net. Some people call it Indra's jewels or Indra's pearls. And then came this guy, Alan Watts, which is a studious person of the esoteric or Eastern religions, and then he created this explanation of what in Indra's net is. I'm going to read, but I'm not going to delve too much into it, and I'm going to show a picture that explains what he is saying here. So he says, imagine a multidimensional spider's web. Everybody knows what a spider web is, right? And some people are afraid of it, right? And I know some people that are really afraid of it. Right there, he's laughing. Um, Imagine a multidimensional spider's web in the early morning, covered with dewdrops, with those, it's wet. It's all wet. And every drop, every dewdrop contains the reflection of all the other dewdrops. So every little pearl, every little drop of water reflects everything around it. And in each reflected dewdrop, the reflections of all the other dewdrops in that reflection, and so on ad infinitum. Infinitum. Uh, so he's let's think of this. You have a mirror, right? And you have lots of mirrors, and then when you look at the mirrors, you see the reflection of all the mirrors. And then you look inside the mirror and you see another mirror, and the other mirror that's inside that mirror is reflecting all the other mirrors. And then you look at another. So it's like repeating, and everybody did this, right? Put a mirror in front of each of the other, and you look at here, then you just see an infinity of mirrors going all the way, right? And I think everybody saw that. This is, or that is the Buddhist conception of the universe in an image, to show that everything is connected, that every small piece reflects everything else. So it's like to say, as if in me, I have all of you, and in you, you have me. So we are all connected. We are all interconnected. So that's an image that the Buddhists came up with to represent the world and to show how deeply connected we all are. And imagine that and if you have this net or this spider web, right, and then you pull it down, everything comes, right, and you pull one, everything comes down. Some that are farther away come less down, but they are affected too. So it means that the one that are closer to me are more affected than the other ones. So the image that I found is this one right here. See, this is a spider web with dewdrops, and all the dewdrops, if you look inside of them, they're kind of reflecting each other. So like small worlds reflecting all the other ones. It's like we are all connected, we are all together, and all tied up. And even though I hope that, I don't know if this works or not. Yeah. See, so we have these little webs here, and although this one is not directly connected to here, but we reflect each other. And if we think about pulling this one up or pulling it inside, this one will move, and probably all the others will go down because this one moves. So this interconnectedness is very important for us because we can think this in a major scale, but we can also think this in a very small scale inside of me. Every cell of my body is like a reflection of myself. So whatever I think, whatever I do, if I affect my hand, I affect my body because it affects my whole body. If I some of course there's some parts are more vital, so if I affect my brain, more stuff will be affected probably. Nonetheless, every little thing is connected. So from the inner, from the smaller to the bigger. And that's why I have the next image. This is one of the most recent pictures of the universe taken by the Hubble, which is a telescope that is flying out in outer space. And in 2014, it's called the Ultra Deep Field. These are real stars and galaxies that we cannot see with our naked eye, but they are there, and we are here. But I can kind of see, obviously, it's not the same thing, but we can kind of see how kind of similar we are all connected. If we put a molecule of water or molecule of sugar or whatever, we're going to see that all the atoms are connected, are interconnected, even without the connection, physical connection itself, but we have the energy that connects them all. And we make our molecules. So here, if we mess with one of these galaxies, the other galaxies around will be affected. And I guess that um, we have all seen movies where like something happens to the moon or it comes a meteor and then affects the world, and then a lot of stuff is affected. So um, let's remember this, not necessarily this image, but this interconnectedness, this connection that we have with every single one of us. I'm going to go back to this close to the end. But for now, let's go individually in certain different religions and philosophies to know more or less how they think about this idea of balance. And then I got a definition of from metaphysics, which is a study not necessarily of the physical world, but it is in studies in a more like um, um, philosophical way. So they say balance is a point between two opposite forces. So we have a force here, we have a force here, and then we have something in the middle, right? That is desirable, is a point between these two opposites that is desirable over purely one state or the other. It's desirable to be in between than to be completely on this side and completely on this side. So we have to find a place in between where this is in equilibrium with this. So let's imagine that I have Altoids and I have Market Basket Peppermint. We have two, right? By the noise, you can see that this is almost empty and this has a lot, right? So if I want to balance these two things, if I put this on a scale and this on a scale, especially on that we go up and down, this one, because it's heavy, what's going to happen? Will go down, and this one will go up, right? So if I had something in between both of these, and I wanted a point here to make balance, to balance these two out, I would have to, the point of balance would need to be closer to this one than to this one. The closer it is to this one, then I can find the balance between them. So what they're saying is, oops, something showed up there. How do I get out of here? Okay, right here. I have to find a point in between these two. When I say, and then they say, let's say it's between law and chaos. Law meaning the total organization. Nothing is out of control. Everything has a law. And on the other side is pure chaos, where nothing has a law. Everything is a total mess. Then that's what they explain it there. Law by itself being overly controlling, chaos being overly unmanageable, balance being the point that minimizes the negatives of both. So you don't want things to be totally under control to the very little, but also you don't want to have everything completely out of control. You want to have something in between. And then that's what they say. Balance is this point where you find a point of equilibrium between these two forces. So in metaphysics, when they study this, they try to find um, this point of balance, of equilibrium. Then we go to philosophy, and then now more with teachings. So Socrates, which we all heard about, maybe we haven't seen a photo of him because at that time there was no camera, there was no cell phone, there was no Instagram. So nobody could know how Socrates is, except that maybe some people drew him, and that's what they think that he looks like. It's that little old dude right there with a big white beard and kind of half bald. So he says, a man must know how to choose the mean, and mean means something in the middle between two extremes, which is to find the balance and avoid the extremes on either side as far as possible. That's his advice, that we should all strive to get away from the extremes as far as possible and get somewhere in the middle. We all heard about that expression that says, know thyself or know yourself, that there's this temple in Delphi that has on top of and everybody says that Socrates said that, but if he said it, it was because it was written as this temple. It says, men, know yourself, right? We even have it written right there back in our door in different languages. And there it's in Greek right on top there. Men, know thyself. But also in the same temple, in another door, on the top of that door, there's this: nothing in excess. So know yourself, nothing in excess. And there's the other one, I can't remember which one it is right now. But see, Socrates lived 2,500 years ago, 2,500 years ago, or 2,000 and 1,600 years ago. It's a long time before Jesus. 600 or 700 years before Jesus, around that. So he was already not only thinking about it for himself, but he was also teaching about it 2,600 years ago. And that thing in the temple was written before Socrates. And then I guess that everybody knows the story of Icarus, right? The guy that created his wings, wanted to fly to the sun, and created his wings out of wax. And then his father or his protector Daedalus told him, fly in the middle course. Don't go too high, too close to the sun, neither go too low. But he wanted to go to the sun. And then he went way too high to the extreme. His wings melted because of the heat of the sun. He fell and he died. So he didn't follow the suggestion of Daedalus, fly the middle course. Once again, find the balance. And that's a Greek story from, I would say, I don't know exactly, but I would say that's even before Socrates. So um, then we have Buddhist teachings. I have two slides for Buddhists, so I'm gonna go a little quicker, I guess. It says that weird name there that I'm not gonna pronounce it, but they say Pali, right? No, I say Pali. I say what's inside the parentheses there. Is defined as a mental attitude of balance, of detachment and impartiality. When we are generous and observe morality, develop calm or develop right understanding of mind and body, which nama and rupa, there is balance. So when we give of ourselves and we observe the idea that if we're trying to do the correct thing at all times, we develop calm and we develop this comprehension, the right understanding of our mind and body, we will achieve to a certain degree um, this balance, and we will find a balance of. And this is Buddhist teachings that go, Buddhist and Hindu teachings that go in written form 6,000 years ago. Some of these writings, not all of them, but some of these writings. So when the Buddha was here, he taught what he calls the middle way, which is the we try to find to be out of the extremes, as every other religion that had no connection with each other. We have to remember that, today when I say something here and there's someone watching online, that person right there can be in Japan right now. It's 8 a.m. in Japan, so you could probably be watching, and it's in real time. But even if it's not in real time, it's going to be recorded, and anyone can access anywhere. But we don't need to go 6,000 years ago. 100 years ago, how would anyone know that I would be talking here? No one. No one. It's impossible. And so it's like different people in different areas, in different times, talking and teaching the same kinds of ideas. And that's what I find fascinating about the human mind, about us humans. We always want to find something that makes our lives better and to find ways to improve our lives. It doesn't matter if it's through philosophy, through science, through religion. We want to make our lives better. The problem is, and then we are seeing here, that we tend to go from this side to this side. We go to extremes. It's not that it's not necessary. Sometimes it might be necessary that some go to extremes so that we know that it's really bad. But when we already know certain limits, should should we be going there all the time? Should we still be doing? And that's a question for ourselves. But then, when the story of the Buddha is very interesting in that way because, and Luciano talked a little bit about this last week. He was a very, 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 very rich prince. He was one of the richest people in the area where he lived. And he never worried about anything. He had everything that he could dream of. And he thought that everybody was the same way. If you live inside in a castle and you never go out and you don't have TV, right, to see what's going on in the outside world, you'll think that everybody lives the same way as you do. And then one day when he finds out that there are poor people, there are people that have nothing to eat outside, he says, wait a minute, that's something, thank you, please. There's something wrong here. I need to go out there and see more of this. So he goes out of the castle And then he decides to go the other way around. So now he came from having everything, and then he said, "No, I'm going to go to the other way around. I'm going to have nothing." And Luciano even gave some examples last week when he said um, that they would not eat anything from nothing unless it was given to them. They wouldn't even take a fruit from a tree. If the fruit fell, then they would get the fruit. But if the fruit didn't fall, they wouldn't get the fruit. So he went from one extreme to the other. And then he realized that this is not right because he was not happy there and he is not happy here. So he needs to find a way to balance these things. And that's when, with all living for a very long time and thinking about the Hindu teachings, he developed this idea of uh, the path of the eight ways, and there are lots of stuff. It's a really interesting study about Buddhism. And then, so the middle way is, and then say, for example, uh, I put like four examples there: existing or non-existing. Oh, I live only mentally, or I don't exist at all. When I die, nothing happens. So, am I a material or am I spiritual? Oh, some people I'm just material, and some people say, oh, I'm just spiritual. Same idea. Am I going to be a saint or am I going to be of the world completely? And asceticism, which is getting rid of everything material, living just a spiritual life, or living only for the matter, only for the body, only so sensuality and asceticism. So that's what he was trying to make us think about is we have to find a way, a middle ground right there, a mean or the middle way. That's how he came up with the words and what he said there. Then from Judaism, when he says, and I didn't change the symbol for Judaism there. This is still for Buddhism. Um, so Judaism, which is comes 1,000 years before Jesus, more or less, 1,500 years, which is starts like with Abraham and Moses and all those stories that we know. And so I have two examples here. So this Rabbi Hillel, which was a very very famous rabbi around the time of before the time of Jesus, actually, he says, um, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me?" So he's questioning. If I am not to do stuff for myself, who will do? Who will do it? That's a good question. But then he questions the other way around. If I am only for myself, then who am I? It's both ways. Because if I am only for myself, then I'm telling everybody, be only for yourselves. How can we live like that? So we have to find a balance. I have to do some stuff for me, but I also have to live for others, right? Everything that we are using here tonight, every little thing, from the microphone to the water, from the chairs to the clothes that I'm wearing, not one thing we did. Not one thing we did. Everything here was done by someone else. And then we want to be selfish. We want everything only for myself. Can you imagine if everybody only lived for themselves? That's what he's asking there. If I'm not for myself, who is going to be? So he's asking. But also at the same time, if I'm only for myself, which is the opposite way, who am I? That's a very, very interesting question. And then Ecclesiastes, which is one of the books of the Bible, and of course, not of course, but of the Old Testament, which is basically um, the main books of Judaism are from the Old Testament, or all of them. It's a famous, stanza of, I don't know, 15 or 16 verses, but it starts like this: There is a time for everything, and a season for everything under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to eat, and a time to fast, a time to this and a time to that. The balance of the world, the cycles that things go through. It's night and day, and we live through it all. And so it's trying to convey to us that idea that we have to understand that this search of balance is not something that's static. Oh, I found balance and then that's it. I'm not never going to do it again. No, 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 no. You found it for one specific thing, for one specific moment, but maybe next moment you're going to need to find balance again for something else. So it's this continuous search because we live in cycles. We're always living in cycles. It's the cycle of our birth, it's the cycle of the week, it's the cycle of whatever it is. It's our new job, it's our new life, it's our new country. It's so everything goes and changes. Confucianism. The doctrine of the mean represents moderation, rectitude, objectivity, sincerity, honesty, and propriety. The guiding principle is that one should never act in excess. That we should never act in excess. So we have to self-watch, look within ourselves. We have to be lenient towards the others. If a person is doing something that we don't agree with, or then we have to, okay, let's let them do, because, and also in sincerity. So we have to find a way to merge all these things together so that we don't um, we are not out of moderation, or we are out of objectivity. So this is one more. But time passes, and I have to accelerate here. Sorry, I put too much stuff here. Islam, which we usually we talk about the Muslims, right? So Islam, which is the second biggest religion in the world, and they're projecting that in a few years, 10 years most, we're going to have about 2 billion people that are Christians, and 1.7 or 1.8 billion Muslims. So the religion is really increasing, and although when we hear about Islam, people usually paint Islam with on a bad light because of all the things that we hear about it. But it's a minority of people. It's a minority of people. And what I find interesting, and this is just a parenthesis here, right? Um, when someone is a Muslim and commits a crime, we know that the person is a Muslim because they say it. When a Christian commits a crime, you don't say that the person is a Christian. You just say that the person committed a crime. So we don't attach the crime to the religion in Christianity, but we attach the crime with the religion in the Muslim world, which is something for us to think about. So we have to remove this idea from our mind, because it's not the religion. It's a small portion of people that really think about the old ways that are really violent. But majority, regular people just like us. Regular people just like us that commits their mistakes, but they're just regular people. Coming back here. In Islam, they talk about this wasat, or however they pronounce it, which is translated as moderation, is one of the most basic terms and deliberately used topics. They talk a lot about moderation. It refers to a justly balanced way of life, avoiding extremes and experiencing things in moderation. That's one of the main things that they are taught. Experience things, but in moderation. Don't go to extremes. Don't exaggerate. If you want to do this, do, but control yourself. You have to find a way to control. And if you're not doing stuff, then that you need to do, you have to do it. Because we sometimes are, uh, um, um, what's the word that I'm looking for? We are lazy. We are excessively lazy. We don't want to do anything. We can sometimes stop and not do something. That's fine. This is rest. But if I rest 6 days a week and work one, there's something wrong, right, Chris? Everybody wants that, but if we do excess of laziness, of rest, then we are doing excess, and we're not being lazy in moderation. So, right? So we can be lazy. That's perfectly fine, but we have to find the right amount of lazy. Right? It's like salt. We have to put salt, but we have to find the right amount of salt. If we put too much or too little, then something's not right. So that's what Islam tells us. Um, and then I go to balancing Christ. Then I have a few passages from Jesus here because, we went through different religions. Now I'm going to talk a little about Christ, about how he dealt with the idea of balance. And it's interesting because he doesn't talk about uh, um, balance literally, but we can see his thought and we can see how he thinks about things when he says it. For example, therefore, that's the end of Matthew chapter 6. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. It's not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all of these things will be given to you as well. So he says, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So he says, tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Today, if we are already living today and we keep our minds worrying about the future, how can I do something here if my mind is out of here? So don't worry that much about the future. You have to think about the future, not worry about the future, not get anxious about the future. So that's what Jesus says. And in between here, he talks about how the birds don't sow, but they always have food and all that stuff. So what he is saying is we are all connected, and we have to do our part of the job. It's like he's saying, do what you need to do. You have to believe, you have to have faith that what you're doing is enough for the future. Because if you worry too much, then you're not going to be able to do something here for the future, anyways. So it will break your process, and you're going to be unbalanced. And being unbalanced today, then tomorrow will be unbalanced, the day after tomorrow again, and then the cycle perpetuates. So we have to find a way to worry less about the future. Think about it, prepare for the future. It's not about not preparing, it's about not worrying. It says, but first, not only first. It says, do it first, seek also the spiritual life. Think about your mental sanity. Think about your mental life, your spiritual life as well, because we live so much in the physical world that we need someone calling us and saying, hey, you have to think about your mental life as well. You have to think about your mental world as well. So that's one of the ways that Jesus says that. And this is that passage where the Pharisees come to him with the coin and then says, oh, should I pay the taxes to Caesar? And he asks, whose image is this? And whose inscription? He shows the coin and says, okay, this image that you're seeing here, who is this image? And what is written here in the back? It says, oh, it's Caesar's. So give back to Caesar what is Caesar, and give to God what is God. That's balance. That's the idea that we have to understand that there are material obligations and there are spiritual obligations. this is someone that wants to catch them saying something against the government so that he can imprison Jesus. So we have to be aware of that as well. But it is very important the way he responds to it, because he says, "Oh, this is Caesar's. Give it to Caesar's. Give it to Caesar." However, we can always ask and question, how much of this should be Caesar's? And then that's when we start to revise stuff that is wrong so that we can fix it. But he's not saying that we shouldn't give. He's saying, if this is Caesar's, if this is proper, give it to who is proper. Give it to who is the owner. So find the balance between the material life and the spiritual life. That's what he is saying here. Also, he's saying many more things. But also, he is saying, hey, we have to balance these things out. If you know the taxes in this case specifically, which was very unjust, I have to say, it was very unjust. The taxation process in Rome was really, well, not in Rome, but by Rome through the Jews, was terrible. But he is, you know, using the time, the moment of teaching to show everyone, say, we have to balance things out. We have to worry about this and worry about this. However we do it. He didn't specify how we do it, but he says, let's worry about both sides. Then I just talked about salt, right? Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can you make it salty again? Have salt among yourselves and be at peace with each other. I find that interesting because he's saying, and when I think about salt, I think about putting too much salt, because I have high blood pressure. So if it's too much salt, then my pressure just goes up, right? So I learned to eat much less salt, and now I don't need it anymore. So a little salt to me sometimes is too much salt, which is different for different people. And that's the other thing about balance. What is balance to me not necessarily is to each one of you. We can find different points of of balance in different times or different things, and so salt needs to have saltiness. We have to find the perfect balance. We have to find the right amount. How we do that? Then we have a few things in Spiritism. Um, in the Law of Destruction on the Spirit's book, they say, why has nature provided agents of destruction alongside the means of self-preservation? Kardec is asking, okay, why is there destruction in the world? And it's kind of a dumb question in a certain way, but it is to me it is a very important question. Out of dumb questions come apparently dumb questions, come thoughts that are really interesting. The disease and the remedy go hand in hand. As we have already told you, this is when I see that the question was dumb, because the spirits respond to him. I already answered you before, so I'm going to give you again. This is done to maintain equilibrium and serve as a counterbalance. Things cannot grow without control. There needs to be a certain thing that comes to destroy what's being out of control, to counterbalance whatever we are living at that moment, whatever situation we have. So we have to find that balance, and the law of destruction comes together with the law of creation, let's say. It's the yin and yang, right? It's the balance. One thing, the dark and the so it tries to balance it out. So this is one of the ideas of Spiritism. Then it says, that's a little further down the Spiritist book, in the Law of Equality, when he asks, are all human beings equal in God's eyes? And he says, yes, they all have the same goal, and God's laws are for everyone. So he's not asking if all human beings are equal. He's asking, are all human beings equal in the eyes of God, in the eyes of the Creator? And says, yes, they all have the same goal, and God's laws are for everyone. You often say, and this is a saying, the sun shines for everyone. And this expression reveals a truth that is much broader and general than you realize. The sun shines for everyone. And if he says that God looks at us and sees us all equal, we can look at the sun, and the sun doesn't distinguish between me and you. The sun just generates light to whomever. God loves us, whomever. So we are the ones that sometimes create this differentiation. And that's when we create this differentiation, when we separate, that's when we get out of balance. When we disconnect, we create the unbalance. We create the disequilibrium. When we separate from this love that God is, it is as if when we are during the winter time, that we have less sunlight, more people go into depression because they have less sunlight. Imagine God as being the sun that sends love to us. When we separate from God, we enter in this disequilibrium of love. We are away from it. We are shielding ourselves from it. Then we don't get that love because we are protecting ourselves against it. So that's how one of the things that the spirits say. In the law of equilibrium, of equality, if economic equality is not possible, those are some questions before. Is equal well-being also impossible? And he says, no, equal well-being can be equal, but well-being is relative. Like I said, a little bit of salt for me probably is too much salt already, but not for you. So this well-being depends on how much I expect from. Equilibrium exists, and he goes through a lot of stuff, and he says in the end, equilibrium exists in everything, but the human race disturbs it. We always find a way to disturb it. I was talking to a coworker today, and he was saying, "Oh, I went to this wonderful parade in Brazil a while ago, a long time ago, and it was like one of those parades for LGBTQ. I don't know the full thing. LGBT. It's all a lot of letters, right? So." Parade, and it was really interesting the first year and so on. But then the next year that I went, everything was terrible. People were doing lots of weird stuff on the streets and so on. And then he was talking about this, and I said, "Oh, look, it's nothing to do with being LGBTQ or not. Nothing to do with it. It has to do with humans. Everything that we put our hands on, we exaggerate. We go beyond." And I said, think about Carnival in Brazil, 50 years ago. Then bring people from that time to today. They will they will faint. They will fall because they won't believe how different it is. Because we just go beyond. Go every year. It looks like we need to do something more to. And then that's what he says. Equilibrium exists in everything, but the human race disturbs it. We are out of balance. So we take our out of balanceness and then put into what we are living. Instead of trying to bring balance inside and bring balance to the surrounding, we do the other way around. That's basically how we do it. So the Spirit's book tells this, but we didn't need the Spirit's book to tell us this because we see it, and that's how we do it. So these are some Spiritist concepts that we have. I have listed here because these are important for my next few slides, and we're going to be over. I only have 3 more slides, and we're going to be over. Although I know that we take a little more time because of the treatment and so on, right? So we have these topics here about Spiritism, and he says. Uh, the basic principle. So the first one is God, right? So we in Spiritism, God is the basis of everything, right? He or she or whoever, however we want to call it, or um, created everything and is the sustainer of it all. It's in everything. It's out of everything. It's who gave us whatever we have and will be continuously giving. So this is God. Then we have the immortality of the soul, which is something that allows us to understand that we, as Flavio said last week, uh, we are not material beings. We are spiritual beings, that we survive. Then we are here living this physical existence. But when we die, we don't die. We just keep going. So it's immortality of the soul. The communicability with spirits. We talk to other spirits, to the ones who already went on, to the ones who already passed away. And one day when I pass away, go to the other side, and I know that Christiane will still be alive, I'll come to visit her, right? And then I'll pull her finger so that she knows that I'm there. um, then we have the principle of reincarnation, which is the idea that, well, if we survive, are we going to stay dead eternally? And Spiritism says no, and it's not a new idea. It's not something that only Spiritism teaches. It's in a lot of, if not all, major religions, that we come back and we live again in a different life. Christianity will be Luciano's mother in the next life. uh, yeah, Christianity will be Sheila's mother as well. And we have the idea of cause and effect, and this is not necessarily as well is not an idea brought forward only by Spiritism. We all know that that's true. If I hit something, that something will move. If I throw it, will go. Everything that we do has an effect. So if I do something bad, the idea the idea here though, it's just that it's not only physical, it's also mental, it's also spiritual. So if I um, do something terrible in one life, or I will suffer the consequences at one point. The effect of that thing that I did will come back to me. The same way the good things that I do will come back to me, which is a natural thing to think about in cause and effect. And progress is the idea that we all evolve, just like Jesus says, um, be perfect, like your Father, like God. So we are beings that are evolving, that are progressing all the time. So that's these are some ideas. So with these ideas, I came up with this list, which is some tools that we can use to regain balance in our lives, based on some of the principles of Spiritism. So when we talk about God, and God could be everything here in this on this Spiritist tool side could be just related to God, because if God is the creator of everything, then everything is connected to God. But one idea that I came up with is, when we are doing our prayers, and prayer is a very good tool for us to try to find balance, is the moment where we are together, when we are together with me, when I am together with myself. And if I have a belief in a being that is bigger and provider for me, and that loves me above it all, I can call it Jesus, as some religions say that Jesus is God. But in Spiritism, since we don't say that, but if we want to call God, Jesus, God, whatever, it doesn't matter. They don't mind, and we don't mind. We shouldn't mind. Um, we try to have a conversation with. And that conversation, which is very interesting, that conversation that we have, it it is as if we are talking to ourselves, to our physical body. And it's proven that when we have a mental positive attitude towards my own body, we can heal ourselves. So if I am going through a certain issue and I want to pray to God to help me, so pray to God and think about him or her or whoever we want to call him, healing me, giving me something that will heal me. So, for example, tonight we're all receiving water, right? Because we're under treatment and we receive the water so that we can drink during the week, right? Um, when we drink the water, just think about the water as being a medication, and do a little prayer and say to myself, say to yourself, this water will help me feel better. That's a small prayer. And I put in quote in parentheses there meditation, because although it's not a spiritist teaching per se, we don't talk a lot about meditation, but in that sense, that any tool that's around is connected to God. And of course, every tool that we have available and that's being studied that works can be used. Meditation is a powerful tool, and lots of Christians in the past used to do meditations while they were praying. Once again, it's not for everybody, right? I never see Saudi. Um, I never see people here wearing hats, for example, right? It's out of fashion. It's almost no one wears hats anymore. Um, but not but the same hat doesn't fit the heads of everybody. Not only because the heads are big or not, and mine is kind of big, but not only because of that, but because it doesn't fit the personality. You put it and you say, no, this hat's not for me. But maybe a baseball cap, it is. Maybe a larger one is. Maybe a witch hat is good for some people here. Right? So the same idea. Meditation, maybe it's not for everybody because you have to acquire the habit, and it is hard, but it is something that provides a lot of help to my health, physical health, and mental health, and naturally spiritual health as well. So that's one tool that we can use to try to find balance. And in this meditation, we can go and enter into the self knowledge. Ask, what am I doing? How am I doing? Why am I suffering this? What did I do today that made me feel unhappy? That made And with this process of self knowledge, we can find ways to improve in certain areas. And with that, I'm going to be a little more balanced in my life. That's something else. Communicability. In Spiritism, if we have, for example, we're going through a process of someone that we lost to death and the person died soon, it's not everywhere and it's not all the time, but there's the possibility of receiving a message from one person that died, right? So through mediumship meetings, so we can call a spiritist center and say, hey, put the name of that person. Then we kind of find those things to be soothing to our souls. Reincarnation. Reincarnation is, when we really have that in our minds, and we know that the person that died didn't die, right? It already it doesn't solve the problem, but it gives us the hope that I'll be able to see it again, see the person again. But not only that, if I'm going through problems here, and I know that the reincarnation process and cause and effect are totally mixed together, Why do we suffer? If I lived before and I did something wrong that I have to fix, that's the consequence. It's a natural consequence, right? If I eat too much, if I, whatever, if I do something in excess, if I'm out of balance, I'll need to find balance anyways. So the more balanced I find while I'm incarnated here, the less unbalanced I leave for my next one. And if my next one is next week, be it next week, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be a new life, but it can be a new work, a new whatever in my life. And the law of progress, we will be better. This that we're living now, too, will pass. Because everything that we lived before already passed. If we solve the problem, already passed. So whatever we're living right now, it will pass too. This too will pass. That's progress. But we have to have that mentality to be searching for it, to be looking for it, to be really doing something actively. We cannot just be sitting and waiting, being the excess of laziness. No, we can. I was saying we can be a little bit lazy, but not too much. So we can wait a little bit, but then we have to move. And I'm glad that I have my wife that makes me move. Otherwise, I would be stopped. She's pushing me all the time. So, and I'm glad that I have her. But I'm also glad that I have you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and all of you, and those who are watching. I'm glad that I have all of you, because it's this interconnectedness that makes everything worth it, that makes me a better person, and that hopefully my presence, just because I'm here, not because I'm saying anything, makes a difference in your lives, because this interconnectedness is that what makes this network of life move forward and not be stagnated. When you go into the sea, you are certain that you will never step on mud. Never. Because the sea never stops. It's always moving, always going back and forth, always going back and forth. It's tiring. It could be tiring, but it's always going back and forth, all connected. But you go into a lake, you never know if when you put your feet down, it's going to be mud. Why? Because the water is so pretty on the surface, so placid, so. But because it's always stopped, everything gathers in it. So we need to be moving. We need to be doing something. And we need to be doing something together to try to find a better balance, not only for me, but for everybody. So this connectedness is very, very important. And hopefully, we are all connected. So when we find balance, we are helping the overall balance. So when we find balance within ourselves, as I said in the beginning, in that net, in that spider web full of stuff where every one of us is one of those droplets, we are helping everybody. Everybody is together. So when I find my balance, you find your balance. Easier. Maybe just a little bit, but it's easier. We are helping each other. This video that I'm going to show, I think I have to go there to play the video. I'm just going to hit there and hit the play button. Oh no, there, it shows up here. And hopefully the sound's going to be good. If it's not, then I'll go there. It's a 2-minute video clip from this documentary that after starting to research for this topic, there's a documentary that's In Search of Balance. That's the name of the documentary. It's exactly the name of what Jorespe is. And it talks about a lot of stuff, but mostly talks about food. But it talks about the interconnectedness that we have. not only amongst ourselves. And remember, I told that everything is connected. We are all connected. What I didn't say is that it's not only us that are connected. I'm connected to every single being in this planet, to the trees, to the animals, to everything. Everything that we do, to the animals, to the plants, to everything affects everything. So it is very important. So this documentary is really interesting. And these are the, it's not a spoiler because it is a documentary, so it doesn't matter. But these are the 2 final minutes of this documentary. And this is one of the main, this is a, she's a doctor, but she's not going to talk now. It starts there, but it's going to be a man talking, and then she talks, and then another man talks, and then there's the final talk. It's 2 minutes. I'm going to play here. Hopefully the sound will be good for you. But it's the name of it, it's In Search of Balance. And I found it free on YouTube. So just if you want to watch it, just put In Search of Balance YouTube. I have the link will show up here after. Hopefully it will work. Does it do? It doesn't play, so I'm going to play it there.
The big challenge of life, the big challenge of life in general is trying to find balance. And once you find it, trying to maintain balance. It's not a goal that you achieve and then that's it. The balance is always going to shift again, and then you'll have to regain the balance.
It's something that's constantly adapting, constantly moving with thousands of different variables. And that, in fact, is balance.
Almost everything is organized in interconnected systems, the simplest systems to the most complex ones. There's a natural law that when systems organize, they will obey one, just like the law of gravity. You could say there's a high intelligence that used to design to create the universe by a very beautiful, simple design that is scalable, that can be used in tiny little networks of insects, so ants talking to each other. There's 2 ways of explaining it, as an engineer or as a spiritual person. And I think at the moment, they're both equally valid.
Awareness of interconnectedness is increasing in leaps and bounds as the new age of globalization accelerates. Our civilization has evolved, emphasizing the separation into parts for too long. On this realization of unbroken wholeness, our future may depend.
So I love one of what one of the people say there. He says there are 2 ways at least to look at this interconnectedness, and to me both of them explain our connection to everyone. One is looking at it from the scientific perspective, and basically the whole idea of the documentary is based in science. But then there's the spiritual perspective, he says, and he says both of them to me explain it all the same way. And we see the images, we see the interconnection, we see that everything that we do in this search for balance is always necessary. As a last image that I want to give to you so that we can finish this is, I guess that everybody had cameras that had lenses at one point in time, or at least saw it. For us to see in focus through a lens like that, to a camera like that, we have to bring the camera to our eyes, grab the lenses, and pull the lenses to one side. It will be out of focus. Then we pull the lenses to the other side. It will be out of focus. Then we move it back in the middle. And then we move it back and forth until we find balance, until we find focus. When we move the camera and we point to a different thing, we're going to have to go through the same process of finding the focus, of finding the balance. That's our life. Like they said in the end, finding balance, it's not once and it's over. No, finding balance is an active process of living. We have to always be finding balance in everything we do. And it's a continuous process because that's how life is. And because with this, that's how we progress. That's how we move forward. Because we're always active. We're always not allowing the bottom of the ocean to create line. Because we're always moving. Always moving. That's what this search of balance does to us. It is tiring sometimes, but that's why we have friends. That's why we have family. That's why we have these gatherings, be it in a church, be it at work, with friends. It doesn't matter. The search of balance is necessary for us. And as a last slide, as our dear friend Jesus says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world, and he says, you will have trouble. You will have to fight to find your balance. But take heart, be brave, be courage. I have overcome the world, and you can also overcome the world. You can do it. That's basically what he's saying. And I guess that was from here that Nike had that. Just do it. Just go. Do it. Just do it because you can. Because we can. We can do it. So that's in search of balance. And with this, we finish tonight's talk. Thank you for joining us. And I know it's 8:30, but that's how I prepared myself. I didn't know how much. Sometimes it takes a little longer. But that's it. So that everybody knows that it's on the same page. This is our fourth talk for our Jorespe. Now we're gonna have the second half of Jorespe. We're gonna have 4 more talks, 2 on Saturdays and 2 on Mondays. This next Saturday now we're gonna have our dear friend Luciana. She's coming from Westboro, and she's gonna talk about spirituality and balance in Portuguese. Now all the other ones are in Portuguese, right? So I'm gonna say the titles in English, but they are all in Portuguese. Next Monday we're gonna have our dear friend Jussara. She will be here talking about um, um, how do you say that in English? I don't know. Mm, I don't know. That's interesting. As bem-aventuranças e o equilíbrio. So she's going to do a study on what Jesus taught on the Sermon on the Mount, and balance. And then we're going to have, for the last week, we're going to have Luiz Lima. She's coming from Florida, and she's going to do Em Busca do Equilíbrio. Huh? He's going to come from Florida, Em Busca do Equilíbrio, in search of balance. And then last Monday of the month, which will be the most important one, don't forget or remember, that's another word that I don't know how to say in English. It's going to be Shirley. She's going to be here talking about the imperturbability. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Even in Portuguese or in English, it doesn't matter the language. So she's gonna be doing the last talk of Jorespe in 2 weeks. So those are the last 4, and that's gonna be it. So for tonight, I guess that's what we have. Let's do our final prayer, and we can all go safely back home and at night someone from the other side will come and, oh, it's still in passes. Oh, they're still gonna have passes after that. Oh, okay. So yeah, so let's do our final prayer. Thanking Jesus and the good spirits for being here tonight with us, and asking them for their blessings, asking them that we can go back home safely to our places, that their love will follow us wherever we go, helping us not only understand but feel the need of self-awareness, the need of this eternal search of balance, and that this love can fill us and surround us in all our lives. And with this, we're thankful for being here tonight, and we ask of you that you can always be with us. So that's it. Thank you very much, folks, and